Okay, as we're getting set, I know we're already streaming live. I'm just going to remind members of the board, you'll need to unmute yourself when we go through the roll call. And to the members of the public that are joining us tonight, we welcome you. And I just want to kind of go over a little bit of some quick ground rules for tonight's meeting because it's a little different. We're actually going to be running two meetings tonight on one continuous live stream. So we're starting at 7 o'clock with the special meeting of the Board of Education. One of the agenda items we need to absolutely take action on tonight, since it's on a critical path to go before the Board of School Estimate, and has to do with funding adjustment of state aid. So we have the Board of School Estimate meeting starting at 8 o'clock. As we get further into our meeting, if our meeting is continuing to go on, I'm going to ask President Miller to take a recess from the Board of Education meeting to allow members of the Board of School Estimate to come on as panelists. And we will also maintain the members of the Board of Education that are also on the Board of School Estimate. The rest of the board will go into a waiting room. And then once we conclude our business with the Board of School Estimate, which should be pretty brief, then we will bring everybody back and we will continue the board meeting. So is everybody here and about ready to get started?
I'm ready, Lou.
Okay. So I will go ahead and get started. So as I said, tonight, we welcome you to the special meeting for another remote public meeting in accordance with the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs Local Operational Guidance, COVID-19 guidance for remote public meetings. First thing we're going to do is, Madam President, if we can call the meeting to order. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag of the United States of America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic
for
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Amen. Okay, in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meeting of bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. Notices announcing the date, time, and place for this special meeting were sent to all concerned individuals, associations, and sent to the Union County local source in accordance with Chapter 231 PL 1975. At this time, I'm going to take the roll. President Miller.
Here.
Mr. Bonner.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Cho.
Here.
Mr. Cologne.
Here.
Ms. Primack.
Here.
Mr. Weinrich.
Here.
And Dr. Wong.
Here.
It's very easy when you're all in front of me. Okay, Madam President, is your meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Pepe. I will start with my president's comments, which for this special meeting are very brief. I've got two governance topics. One is an explanation of tonight's special meeting. It's deemed special because it falls outside of our regularly scheduled cadence of meetings and those that we published to the public in advance, not because anything extra exciting happens this evening. As you know, we never meet in August because typically there are not a lot of governance items to be taken up in August. This, of course, is different this year. So we have called this meeting and thank all who are with us. Tonight, we have governance items, one which Mr. Pepe already brought to everyone's attention. We will need to take quick action on an item that our operations committee and the board has already fully discussed, which is a reallocation or a reappropriation of funds. And the Board of School Estimate meeting will follow thereafter to take full action on that. And we also have an altered calendar, which we need to motion on and discuss and vote upon. That calendar change had already been communicated to families in our reopening plan and in prior letters to the community. Tonight, we also adopt our reopen plan. And adoption of the plan, which by the way, has been given an unreserved thumbs up by both the Department of Health and the Department of Education, who are the governing bodies who oversee the plan. Adoption of that plan merely acknowledges that it is our plan. It gives our district administrators the opportunity to continue planning, which they have been doing and will continue to do until our school is under typical and normal circumstances when the pandemic is over. Until that time, plans will continually be changed as needed, daily if necessary. So we will take action upon that. And finally, I've got one, it's a governance item. It's fun. It is the last meeting this evening where Mr. Gardella will be sitting in the dais with us as our acting superintendent. Rob, you have done a tremendous job on behalf of the board and I can tell you we are so thankful for the utter commitment and dedication you have shown to the district. Very few people will truly understand the blood, sweat, and other stuff that you gave in the past few months for education in Summit, for educators in Summit, and for students, those we educate in Summit. But some of us saw it firsthand, me especially. Thank you very much. We're so thrilled that we're not going to lose you. You're going to just shift over to the HR job that you've also been doing while you've been acting superintendent. And we're very, very pleased to still have you there. Thank you, Rob, for all that you did. I request that you disinfect the baton so that you can pass it to Mr. Scott Huff on Sunday night at 11:59 because he starts on Monday. Thanks, Rob. And the floor is now yours. Those are my governance items for the night.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, it has truly been a pleasure. And, you know, I really would like to just say thank you to the board for putting your confidence in me and for the opportunity. It really has been a tremendous learning experience. I've had an opportunity to work with a tremendous team and just really at a time where we do find out who we really are. And I'm really proud of who we are. So I'm grateful, I'm appreciative, and thank you. So I'll begin my report tonight just by thanking everyone else who was involved in creating our reopening plans, for all of the ongoing dialogue that's necessary to ensure a well-rounded and comprehensive plan. We've got a lot of it. I understand that the governor's announcement yesterday has raised some questions. Throughout this process, our governor's spoken language has not been transcribed verbatim to the executive orders. So Executive Order 175 was released this afternoon, and I encourage everybody to read it. Today we did that. You know, we carefully reviewed Executive Order 175. We reaffirmed our compliance with the authorities who regulate our planning process, namely the Department of Ed guidelines and our local health department. We have determined that we do not qualify for the exemption to open remotely right now. This exemption is intended for districts who cannot meet the guidelines or requirements. Our plan is thorough, our plan is complete. And again, many thanks to all who worked so hard on its development. We're currently proceeding with digesting enrollment data, looking at our plan as it moves closer to action. And we'll continue to communicate transparently just as we have throughout this process. I will caution everyone, you know, there are still very real possibilities of changes, and the changes range from minor tweaks to a complete overhaul. And it's unfortunately how we've been forced to live our lives since March. Information out of the state has been ambiguous. It's changed sometimes daily, and I expect that to continue, you know, right up to the time in which we're expected to reopen. It seems that educators have been placed in charge of public health, and that's been a challenge. But nevertheless, I am so proud that we set ambitious goals and we strive to achieve them. And we stood firm on doing what we believe is best for our stakeholders, albeit in the face of uncertainty. If we are required to make any changes, it'll be disruptive and it could be abrupt, but it will only be because of our steadfast efforts to go all in on what we believe is best for our most important stakeholder group, and that's our students. So this is my last opportunity to address the community. I want to say thank you again, and I hope that you'll invite me to the virtual dais from time to time. Madam President.
Sorry, I was on mute, Rob. You're going to have a dais one day. I can assure you of that. I can assure you of that. All right, let's go quickly on to committee reports. I know that most of our committee reports were based on review of the reopen plan before it was submitted for review. But tell us what you got. Education, Peggy Wong.
Thank you. So we actually had 2 meetings since this Board of Ed meeting. We had one on July 28th. It was for 2 hours actually, and in attendance was our acting superintendent, Dr. Ardella, Jen McCann, Tanya Lopez, Donna Miller, Vanessa Primack, and we were joined by Doreen Baptist and Scott Hoff, actually. Clearly, we spent most of our time talking about the reopening plans and the educational instruction for all of our school and how it fit into, as we've indicated, the New Jersey the New Jersey Department of Education guidelines on the return to school. The guiding continue and still center on social needs, academics, health for kids, staff, and administration. Talked a lot about the different district, everything from, you know, education instruction for learners, music, arts, athletics, and electric, woodworking in our culinary program. Here, I like a summer.
All right, so what we're going to do is, while Peggy finds her way back to us, let's move over to operations, and then we'll ask Peggy to continue. All right, ops. Michael, thank you.
Okay.
Oops, sorry.
Peggy, we're going to jump back to you if you just came back on. So,
Yep. Sorry that.
Okay, I'll cover ops quickly. The operations committee did not formally meet. However, we, as a part of the process through the summer, obtained a comprehensive update from the business office on August 4th with respect to all pertinent matters for the committee. And so that update included the appropriation from available fund balance of the shortfall from state aid, which we will be voting on today. And so that $296,968. We also reviewed, as a part of this update, the operations elements of the reopening plan, which included, which we provided information on in our forum, included all information related to reconfiguring the classrooms and acrylic and plexiglass barriers, directional arrows, rearranging the schedules, as well as the MERV 13 filters, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that information was provided to the operations committee and deemed appropriate to proceed for the opening. In addition, we were updated on all of the capital projects that are ongoing in the district, including the Summit High School roof, which we're happy to report survived the hurricane last week. So that's positive. As well as the energy savings program. The installation of the new light fixtures in all the buildings is complete, and the phone system upgrade is in progress. And in addition, the final update was with respect to our 2020 and 21 budget and the closeout of 19 and 20, and there were no material changes to our last ops meeting with respect to those financials. And so the committee was satisfied with the update and the elements of the update, and hence did not have a formal meeting. And one other quick note, I would be remiss if I did not congratulate Lou Pepe, Kathy Sarno, and the business office for, I will say again, and Lou, you can quote how many years you've won this. I'm sure it's numerous. The Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. And so that was recently awarded earlier this week to the Summit Public School System. And so I would like to to congratulate and thank Lou Pepe and the business office for an excellent job and helping to give us peace of mind with respect to that part of our district and how it functions. Thank you, Lou.
Yeah, Michael, thank you. And thank you to my staff and everyone throughout the district that assists us on all the financial work that we do. The one thing that I will add a little bit more color to, in case anybody's concerned or looking at the state aid, although there has been a reduction in state aid this year of approximately $300,000, we're still about 5.4% ahead of where we were in the 2019-20 school year on state aid. So we'll be able to adjust pretty easily on this. We're going to be taking the money out of our fund balance. I'll go into a little more detail at the Board of School Estimate meeting. But again, the operations committee got all the detail on it, and I appreciate all the time you guys are taking out of your summer to go through all these extra things on top of the hurricane and on top of our school reopening plan and whatnot. But rest assured, the monies that we're going to be taking out of our 2% fund balance we'll be able to restore at the end of the audit, because we had just closed this year out and we're in a very good financial position again. And a lot of that has to do with the health benefits. Because of the shutdown, people have not been going to the doctor, the hospital, or surgeries that normally would for electives. So we're really financially in good shape. And again, I appreciate all the work of Kathy, especially, and our staff accountant in the business office and the rest of the team. So I appreciate that. And we can continue, Madam President.
Thank you, Lou, and thank you, Michael. All right, Peggy, we're going to give you another chance, and we hope that we can hear you this time. One thing, if you see me waving, Peggy, turn off your camera. That might help you be heard better. You might, instead of sucking up your bandwidth on your camera, might help. She's frozen.
Can you hear me?
Okay, now we can.
You can hear me now. Okay.
Yes.
Must be sucking a lot of bandwidth. Okay. I apologize. So basically, I was saying that we were thanking the SEF for giving us a chance to have the SNAP program because this year we failed to meet the requirements for Title I, and that Doreen Babis joined us to talk about insights into plans for the special needs students and provide a general outline of counseling plans in collaboration with Laura Kaplan for the social emotional needs for all of our students. So a lot of this was outlined in our opening plans and captured in the parent handbooks and the corresponding visuals of the schools. This material has subsequently been released to the community and available on the school district reopening webpage. The committee supports the administration's plan to maximize the student achievement by grade level while balancing the various scenarios. And as we've all said, we look forward to the continued discussions around the various scenarios. We had a second meeting on August 7th. It was a short meeting, it was half an hour. Can you guys still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And attended Rob Gardello, Jen McCann, Tanya Lopez, Chris Bonner, and Vanessa Primack. It has to do with the calendar proposal. School starts on September 1st. However, after creating the plan and gaining a deeper understanding of how in-person and remote learning will work, in concert, concerns were raised by key stakeholders, including building administrators, committee members, and the SEA, that starting that first week with the morning-only sessions may provide a stronger support for the duration of the 2020-2021 school year. So the administration has therefore proposed the following. The first week of school, September 1st to September 4th, will only be the 4-hour morning sessions for the students. In-person students will be in the school buildings, while remote-only students will access via the remote platform. No students those first 4 days have an afternoon session, their professional development during the afternoon. So the main thing to know is that gives us an opportunity for the teachers to do some adjustments to the new teaching models, do some real-time implementation of new tools and techniques, and allow for time for additional planning among teachers, supervisors, and building level administrators. So the recommendation is The supports this recommendation to the calendar change of morning-only instruction for students with professional development for the teachers in the afternoon. So those are the main points. Anything I left off, my fellow Board of Ed committee members? Nope, that's it then.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Peggy. We move on to policy. Mr. Bonner.
We did not meet, and we don't have anything to report. We probably have a lot in the next couple of months, but not at this time.
You're going to have a lot. You're going to have a lot in the next couple of months. Okay, thank you, Mr. Bonner. Communications, Mr. Weinrich.
The Communications Committee met remotely on Wednesday, July 29th at 9 a.m. for 1 hour. In attendance, in addition to myself, were Lorraine Callender, Michael Colon, Donna Miller, and Rob Cardella. Our main topic of discussion was the communications plan for releasing the district's plan for reopening. The committee also discussed additional forms of communication, including video demonstrations of the safety measures in place at our schools, staff and community forums, and the most efficient way to collect enrollment data based on preference of instruction delivery. The committee agreed that the district needs to continue to communicate any local or state changes to the Summit community in an open and transparent manner. There are no recommendations for the board. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, August 26th at 9 a.m.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? All right, wonderful. Did nobody had any liaison report to make, correct? This month? All right. Then we move on, Mr. Pepe, to public comment. So again, Mr. Pepe will, do his thing right now, but this is a special meeting. So in a special meeting, we will contain our public comment to items on the agenda, which would be reopen plan, calendar, the reapportionment, reallocation of funds.
Assignment, yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And Madam President,
Yes.
since I did not receive any public comment on the state adjustment to our state funding,
Mhm.
and we do have to make sure that that is acted upon before we have our Board of School Estimate meeting. We have a lot of items on public comment that are surrounding the school plan for reopening.
Okay. Mhm.
Can we go ahead and take the action on item school board operation, item E?
On E,
Get that out of the way?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that so we can get that out of the way.
And that way, when we take our recess, we'll have no problem moving into.
Perfect.
school
Okay.
Okay, so under school board operations, Article 8, item E, approval to appropriate $296,968 from unassigned fund surplus to maintain budget appropriations for the 2020-2021 annual school budget in accordance with the revised 2020-2021 state aid notice released July 2020. A lot of 2020s. I need a motion, Madam President.
So moved.
Second,
Okay.
Okay, okay, on the roll, I have President Miller moving it, and I have Vice President Bonner seconding it. President Miller,
Yes.
Vice President Bonner,
Yes.
Mr. Cho,
Yes.
Mr. Cologne,
yes.
Ms. Primack,
Yes.
Mr. Weinrich,
Yes.
and Dr. Wong.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
All right. Good idea, Lou. Thank you for always thinking.
No problem.
All right. So you can begin the open comment.
Okay, so tonight, again, I'd like to remind everyone the purpose of public comment is to allow the members of the public to express their concerns and share comments related to items before the Board of Education prior to action being taken. Comments and/or questions may or may not be met with a response. However, they are greatly appreciated by the board. The board president is the presiding officer, may direct any question or comment to members of the board or members of the administration as she deems necessary to provide clarification or to provide additional information. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. All the public comment in accordance with our remote meetings were sent to me via email. I actually still have some on email, so when we get to the end, I will check to see what's still in the queue. I'm gonna take a drink here. Okay, so the first one is represents a shared statement from 66 members of the SEA, the Summit Education Association, who asked to have their comments read tonight. They're in the form of the following, and the individuals who submitted them. We start with Brayton. We had three people from Brayton: Aaron Gilbert, Danielle Greco, and Rob Gannon. Franklin, we had Eleanor Wang, Janet Lamborg, Kristen Douglas, Christina Colinari. Jefferson, we had Marisol Rodriguez, Judy O'Donnell, and Jeff Fluharty. From Lincoln Hubbard, we had three teachers, Michelle Enrich, Courtney Nelson, and Emily Cooper. From the high school, we had 24 members submitting the shared statement: Cynthia Vital, Catherine Yurga, Alicia Lyle, Jennifer Schultz, Ashley Garcia, Ryan Aminio, Kyle DeTola, Rose McCauley, Elizabeth Mongno, Kelly Wright, Karen Ingram, Lauren Wells, Jennifer Jean Louise, Elizabeth Bartow, Joseph Mayer, John Procopia, Lindsay Morse, Peter Copenal, Ann Weissenberger, Frank Bargona, Denise Robels Peck, Ashley Soulares, Lauren Dionfrio, Colleen Craig, and then we had 17 members from the middle school: Danielle Petrowski, Nicole Macias, Marilyn Rand, Jamie Farber, Natalia Pinzone, Mercedes Priola, Warren Wanamaker, Teresa Martin, Dana Amato, Dana Appel, Christina Cassini, Lucia Diaz Romero, Lori Mason, Emmanuel Laureat Aparuzzi, Jennifer Fout, Karen Doherty, and Mary Jo Reed. Then we had a few members from Washington School: Gina Mahon, Jill Profesky, Cheryl Brennan, Diane Sylvester, Suzanne Pilipsky, Matthew Carter. That's our phys ed teacher. And then over at Wilson, we had Melissa Gitlitz, Amy Chambers, that's Wilson Primary Center, Daniela Zalancia, Teresa Lee, and Melissa Nestor, which I did not get her school location. So here you go. The shared statement for the board. I appreciate the efforts that the Summit Board of Education and others in the school district have put forth in creating the plan for returning to school. In its current state, however, this plan does not meet all of the standards set forth by the New Jersey Department of Education. Consequently, it will not provide the necessary safety measures required for the students, their families, and the staff. While the plan complies with many of the suggestions with the NJDOE's The Road Back, it often states that more detailed documentation and information will be created, or that the plan will include certain elements. It frequently does not elaborate on the details of what will be included in these forthcoming write-ups, instead reading like a plan to create a plan for returning to school: staff meals, physical education, art, music, protocols when a student or staff member shows symptoms, and contact tracing procedures are just some areas where details are not provided. In addition, the plan does not allow for one of the most essential safety requirements of all: 6 feet of distance, or any appropriate distance between individuals. This does not occur in any classroom, yet additional physical dividers are not in all rooms. More time is needed to develop a truly safe plan. There is simply not enough time to accomplish this by August 27th. New Jersey has not seen a 2-week decline in COVID infections, a condition recommended by the CDC as a marker of when it is safe to reopen schools. There have been hundreds of new cases every day since the beginning of August. Union County has had an infection rate of 1.03 as of August 11th, 2020, a number that has increased since May 2020. The American Association of Pediatrics has reported a 90% increase of cases in children over the last 4 weeks. Although multiple factors relate to this increased movement of the virus among children is noted as one of them, according to the AAP Committee on Infectious Disease Vice Chair. A South Korean study has recently been released. It indicated that there is increased community spread of COVID-19 in all ages, or in ages 10 to 19, over other age groups. In addition, a recent study from the Children's Hospital of Chicago provided evidence that due to their higher viral DNA load, young children will spread the disease as much as older children and adults. These recent increases in studies provide a stark warning that reopening schools without a proper plan in place will no doubt lead to increased spread of the disease. No model that includes anything but 100% remote learning can be considered safe at or for this time. For these reasons, it is all of these individuals' request that instruction be 100% virtual until we can work out the details of a plan that ensures the safe return of students, their families, and staff. And that is the end of this shared comment. Okay, now in a follow-up to that comment, which not all, but a majority of the individuals, and I'm not going to rename them all, forwarded this to the Board of Education. I am writing to let you know that as an employee of the Summit Public Schools, I do not feel safe returning to school under the current reopening plan in the context of the current public health crisis. I'm urging you, the Board of Education, to vote to begin the school year remotely so that staff and students are not rushed into a high risk and potentially dangerous situation. Further adherence to the state of New Jersey's minimum requirements for reopening is needed, and more time is needed to test and develop sound training opportunities for staff before welcoming students into our schools. The extra time ensures safety to all, and I look forward to returning to work with all possible safety protocols in place. Thank you for your attention to our concern. Okay, Madam President, do you want me to continue?
Yes.
Okay. The next comment is from another teacher, Jude McGuire. And the comment is, I appreciate the efforts of the Summit Public Schools to provide a safe path to return to the school buildings. I feel safe returning to the classroom, and I support the current plan that Summit has set forth for the start of the school year. I do not support an all remote plan. That was also followed up in a similar message to the superintendent and board members for public, and that is from the same person, Judy McGuire. I'm writing to let you know that as an employee of the Summit School District, I do feel safe returning to school under the current reopening plan. I'm urging you and the Board of Education to vote for the current reopening plan. I feel safe returning to my classroom with the plans and protocols that are in place by the district. Thank you for your attention. Okay, I'll just pause in case you want to interject, otherwise I'll continue. The next comment I have is from Eric Fontes, or Fonts, and that's Summit High School. I am dedicated to teaching Summit students, and I want to teach Summit students to the best of my ability in a safe environment. I don't feel safe returning under the district's current plan that will welcome 1,200 students into the high school building every day. The most concerning issue being that there will not be 6 feet of distance or any appropriate distance between individuals. There is a compromise that can be made through a hybrid schedule that reduces daily enrollment to 50% and helps ensure proper social distancing that fits within appropriate safety guidelines. Nearly every single neighboring school district is creating an AB hybrid with 2 cohorts attending in-person classes twice a week and being remote the other 3 days. The districts claim that an AB hybrid is not safer than everyday in-person teaching is misguided. Having 600 students in a building is safer than having 1,200 students present. The other concern about not being able to monitor students on the days they are not in school shouldn't be a concern if you trust students and their families to adhere to the safety measures they have been responsibly following the past several months. We can all come together with a hybrid format. It reduces the risk while enabling us to connect with our students in person to drive the most effective teaching during this unprecedented school year. Okay. Item number 6 is a comment from a resident, Laura Luzia Burke, 29 Fairview Ave. Sorry. I would like to thank everyone on the board for your hard work during these unprecedented times. I have a 2nd grader and an incoming kindergartner for the upcoming year, and I am looking for clarification on 2 points. Now that the board has the final numbers for remote versus in-person students, can parents please have an approximate number of how many students will be in each class? I realize these numbers may change, but any kind of an approximate number is helpful. My 2nd comment is to please reconsider temp checks for children entering the classrooms. This is such a simple screening tool. Homeroom teacher can conduct non-invasively and quick, taking less than 5 minutes out of the day. Temp screens are not mandatory, but given all the safety measures some schools are already taking, why cut this one out? It would not only eliminate potential COVID infections, but also other transmittable illnesses. I urge you to please reconsider this matter. Temp checks are required to enter any public setting, camp, doctor's appointments, hair salons. Why would we stop short in school? Thank you for your time and attention. Okay, next one is from Amy Malik, 16 Essex Road, Summit. As the board meets to discuss the 2020-2021 school year with regards to the pandemic, I would urge you to take a moment and think about the following. We will only know the outcome of our decision sometime after it is made. None of us can predict what will happen by bringing teachers and students together in school buildings with so much that remains unknown about the virus. To be sure, the options of 1, sending people back into school buildings, and 2, remote learning are both extremely difficult to execute and come with many challenges and drawbacks. But only one of these options risks further spreading COVID-19 in our community and the possibility of serious illness and death of someone in our community or linked to it. 10 years from now, looking back on this decision, we will be sorry we did not send our children and teachers back. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm reading this correct. 10 years from now, looking back on this decision, will we be sorry we did not send our children and teachers back to school for a semester or a year? How will this semester or year of remote learning have affected things? Or will we be sorry we tried to force things back to normal too early? Will we have people that become sick or died because of our decision? This is a stressful and difficult time for everyone. I am thankful to those that have worked hard to think through the scenarios. Their plan is as good as it could possibly be given the constraints. But the reality is that the precautions some schools are taking are talking about talking still present enormous risk. I also understand the enormous downsides of remote education. I've seen many of them in my own household, but remote learning does not have the likelihood of sickening kids and teachers and parents and grandparents with consequences of long-term health effects or death. I personally know teachers in this school district who are terrified about the decision to open the schools. And I am so sad to see these people being put in this position. I believe no child can really be in a safe environment to learn, both physically and emotionally, and no teacher can be expected to do their job well until we can more certainly guarantee their basic safety and that of their loved ones. Thank you for your consideration. I have to take a water break here. And again, as the timekeeper, I'm just letting you know we're at 7:40. So I think we are going to have to break when we get to about 7:55. Okay. Now the next one is from Dan Miller, SEA president, and Dan's located at the Summit Middle School. Governor Murphy recently opened up the option to begin the school year remotely. Speaking as Summit Education Association president, the vast majority of my over 500 members are urging the board to take this common sense step and begin this school year remotely. This is the overwhelming view of my members. When surveyed, only 11% were in favor of returning to live instruction under the plan proposed for approval tonight. Although there have been some accommodations made for staff with risk factors, this opening plan is forcing many members to weigh their health and the health of their families against their financial well-being. Many have expressed that they feel they are being forced to resign or take leaves at greatly reduced or no salary. It has devastated staff morale. I have never seen members so stressed and depressed. Additionally, the plan as it stands risks poisoning the heretofore positive relationship of the staff with the board and administration. Members have expressed their dismay at working for an employer who is willing to put their health at risk, leading some members to reconsider if Summit Schools is the place they want to spend their career. A growing number of districts are making this common sense change. The New Jersey Principals and Supervisors Association and the New Jersey Association of School Administrators agree with my members. It is currently unsafe to open schools to live instruction. The plan you may vote on tonight was developed under extreme time constraints and did not provide the time to adequately plan for the myriad of things that would lead to a truly safe reopening. The list of concerns is quite long, so I will focus on two that have been expressed frequently by members. In the parent forum, you acknowledge that the limited PPE that will be available will put students and staff at risk. Board administrators stated, we are doing the very best we can. As essential workers, they will be at risk just as medical professionals are. If staff is at risk, then students and their families are at risk by opening school as proposed. Additionally, the plan has all students attending 5 days a week. This does not allow for adequate indoor social distancing. Combine limited PPE with inadequate social distancing due to large class sizes, and the current plan cannot ensure the safety of students, their families, and the staff. He reiterates paragraphs that were already shared in the shared statement about CDC statistics, so I'm not going to go through that. Given all of these factors, the Summit Education Association is asking the board to reconsider the open plan and move to 100% remote learning for the beginning of this year. This will provide time to fully adequately plan for eventual safe live instruction and to determine if the trend in the spread of COVID in New Jersey is favorable to reopening to live instruction. Given all these factors, the Summit Education Association is asking the board to reconsider the opening plan and to move to 100% remote learning for the beginning of this year. This will provide time to fully adequately plan for eventual safe live instruction and to determine if the trend in the spread of COVID in New Jersey is favorable to reopen to live instruction. I think I actually read that paragraph twice. And that's the end of Dan's statement. Okay, the next statement is from Laura Schaefer, 96 Prospect Hill Avenue. I'm writing this note to express my appreciation for all the hard work that so many people have dedicated to our schools during these unprecedented times. All I could think during this process of coming up, all I could think of during this process of coming up with a school plan is that there is absolutely no way to make everyone happy. There rarely is. But regardless of how any one individual feels about the in-person school versus remote instruction dilemma, there is no doubt that the reopening plan for Summit was thorough and thoughtful. I can only imagine how much time and energy it took to come up with the product that we received in our inboxes last week. I don't know how this will all turn out, and I'm sure however it turns out, there will be hiccups along the way. But I would like to acknowledge the administrators who worked on this plan, along with the Board of Ed, and I imagine many others. The hard work is notable, especially amidst the ever-changing landscape. I am also so thankful for the teachers and principals and custodians for being there for and supporting our kids. Thank you all for your time, dedication, and attention to detail. It is most appreciated. Okay, next one is from Diane Sotile. As a member of the City of Summit community, and as an ADHD and executive function coach who serves students in the community, I am writing with comments and questions regarding the Summit Schools reopening plan. I want to thank the Board of Education for the work you have put into creating a plan in a most difficult situation. I had the opportunity to attend the community forum that was held on Monday night, and I have read the reopening plan handbook. I also read the summary provided in the TAP. Thank you to Melanie Wilson for your thoroughness. I do have a number of questions that I hope will be answered as this situation evolves. For tonight's meeting, I will keep my commentary concise. First, I want to express concern that the state of New Jersey Health Department has not yet issued guidelines for schools reopening. While Governor Murphy yesterday announced that schools now have the ability to choose a fully remote option if they are concerned that they are not ready to open. It is extremely difficult to decide on readiness when guidelines have not been issued. I am guessing that you share that frustration with me. Now to other matters of concern to me. On April 27, 2020, Secretary of Education Betty DeVos reiterated to Congress that IDEA laws should remain intact during the pandemic crisis and shutdown. In Monday's community forum, a question was asked about delivery of accommodations and modifications to students during remote learning hours. The response was that teachers will have to work it out. I'm expressing concern about this answer for, as an example, when a student is provided with extra time on tests, but they need to go home in time to have their remote courses, how and when will the student be able to take the test with extra time? While this is only an example, I am left to wonder if there is a detailed plan for delivery of services to students who have both IEPs, 504s, and INRS plans in both the remote and the hybrid model. And does this plan include systems that will allow for child study team and other meetings if a student or parent cannot attend in person? As parents need to have clear answers regarding delivery of such services. I hope that you will consider having a community forum for parents in this group where you can provide such answers. My second query has to do with Acting Superintendent Gardella's explanation of the reasoning for choosing a 5-day week versus an AB plan. Per the TAP article, the AB models were evaluated and discussed at length, but said, while no model prevents people from gathering outside of school in the community by having people in school every day, the community's movement will be minimized. He said that this way people can be screened daily, checked that they are masked, and ensure that they are supervised and accountable. I would like further explanation of this comment. Students have been out of school since March 2020, and parents have been able to protect them in the community. Does Assistant Superintendent Gardella's response insinuate that parents will no longer be able to protect their children because they will be out in the community? I also have a question. I also question how an indoor environment with little to no reduction in density for half day every day is better than having a child at home with only their family, where they have been all along. Also, while you have said that the reason is that the students can be screened daily, you will not be doing temperature checks or COVID testing, but only a visual check. In my view, that is not a protocol that ensures that students will be safer in school than at home. Summit has not had a COVID spread among children during this time, so I trust that parents will continue to be able to keep them safe. While there may be other reasons for not choosing an AB schedule, I do not think that this one passed muster. I would appreciate it if you will provide a deeper explanation of this reasoning. I appreciate your time. Warm regards, Diane Satile. Okay, so we're at 7:52.
Yeah, what I'd like to do, if it's okay, we have more, I assume, that we'll need to come back to, correct, after the Board of School estimate? All right, then let's do this. We'll stop here. I'll make a few comments, open it to anyone else who would like to make a comment, then we'll leave and then we'll come back and continue. So generally speaking, we hear you, we understand. We're not monsters. We have fears, we have questions, we have concerns. We wonder. Some of us live with essential workers. So we live the reality that you live, maybe just a little bit differently. That's the first thing. So we hear you, we hear everyone. The second thing is we must understand, we as a board must understand, our community, teachers, students, etc., must understand that the option to go 100% remote in EO 175 is given only to districts who can demonstrate, apply for, and then be approved by the state because they have not been able to meet the standards in the checklist. We have met those standards. We have been told that we meet those standards. We therefore do not apply. We do not apply for that option. We cannot. It is not my choice to do so. Finally, many of the comments and questions make very important, have important questions and concerns about things that are being dealt with currently. For example, how many kids will be in a classroom? They're working on that now. Why is it not an AB? Why is it 5 days? It's 5 days not by Mr. Gardella's choice. It's 5 days because the Board of Education requested that of our employee. He's our only employee, and we requested that. He worked very hard with his cabinet to create a 5-day plan. And should that 5-day plan not be possible because there are too many kids and they're not going to be spaced far enough away from one another, then, as Mr. Gardella has said on numerous occasions, we'll shift. Maybe we'll shift to an AB plan. Maybe we'll shift to something different. but we will shift. We'll only know that at the end of this week, I suppose, next week, early next week, when they finish plotting in each school. So things are not completed yet. We have reiterated, this is a plan to continue to plan. It has been approved by the people, the two entities that do the approving here. I don't do the approving. My Aunt Sylvia doesn't do the approving. Local Department of Health and the Department of Education do the approving. And they have said we're good. And therefore we move forward until we realize that we cannot. And then we will shift immediately. I open it to anyone else before we have to leave.
I'll just comment very, very briefly. I appreciate, alternate opinions. I believe that's what makes the world go around. There needs to be ongoing dialogue and questions. I believe that brings us to a well-rounded and comprehensive result. I want to reiterate that, we have never intended to create a plan for in-person education and to sell it to people. That's not what we're doing. Remember what we were tasked to do. We were tasked to reopen in some way. And so we created goals, and they were lofty goals. And we've worked hard to achieve them. Our goal, our mission, was to design the best instructional models that we can, both in person and remote. And we've done that. Our plan has been reviewed. Our plan's compliant. And I thank you.
And I also have one quick comment, and I just want to clear something up. And I thought we really covered this well when we did our parent forum and also when we had the forum for employees. The misconception about the 6 feet. The 6 feet are not required. It is a recommended guideline. However, I'm reading now from the New Jersey Department of Education's plan that was referenced in the joint statement, the road back. Classroom testing and therapy rooms. Ensure that students are seated at least 6 feet apart within the classroom. Then right under that bullet says, if districts answer no to the above, implement social distancing modifications to the greatest extent practicable, including the use of physical barriers between desks and or turning desks to face the same direction, which we have done, and having students sit on one side of the table or be spaced apart. These are all items that we have double and triple checked with the authorities at the state to ensure that our plan is adequate. Not that we're certifying a plan that does not meet the standards. The practicality came up right away in the area of transportation. Fortunately, we don't do a lot of transportation. We're a walking district, but there's districts that have 54 passenger buses. And when you strictly apply the 6 feet rule, you would have 11 students on a 54 passenger bus. So if you think about it, for every bus that you currently run, you'd be running 4 or 5 buses, which really doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's not practicable. That's why the state, when the governor was talking about flexibility with this 6 feet, that's definitely in there. We're making every effort to ensure the maximum space we can achieve in each classroom. And as the numbers come in, we'll be taking more desks out of the room and even spreading the desks even further than they already are, which we stated was 3 feet or more. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Anyone else?
I'd only offer with respect to special services and IEPs, 504s, INRS, those are all highly individualized, and therefore in a overview of the plan, that's about as detailed as one can get. Rob, you'll correct me. It's my understanding from our education committee conversations, Chris, Peg, you'll also correct me, that our Department of Special Services, the appropriate people, whether it's your case manager, your child study team, one of your supervisors, that those conversations will be happening with families both prior, like a little bit closer to, and then at the beginning of the school year, and really trying to really working specifically to meet the IP. or 504. So that's not something, that's something that will happen on a more direct communication with the families and students involved. That was my understanding.
That was mine as well, Vanessa. I concur.
Yeah, and I'll support Doreen Babis. I know that she has everything under control. She completely understands what is necessary to make sure that all of our students' needs are met. She's fantastic in her leadership in that department.
So
Shouldn't have muted myself. She's extremely fabulous. So yes, so for the general question from the member of the community, that is absolutely all in the works.
Mr. Bonner, did you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I just want a quick clarification about health screenings. The CDC does not currently recommend universal symptom screenings. All students grades K through 12 to be conducted by schools. So I just want to clarify that quick because the CDC is one of the sources that the district is using to make decisions. And then I just wanted to clarify a couple things with Mr. Gardella. With regards to reopening schools, there's a checklist and it's called the, all right, I had it up and I may have dropped it, but I was gonna specifically name it, but essentially it's a checklist that condenses the road back reopening plan and it asks the district like 4 pages worth of questions that you have to answer to open schools. And I know you've reviewed that.
Yes.
Does Summit meet all of those requirements?
Yes.
In the reopening plan, there are 10 critical areas that the governor's task force has asked districts to focus on. And each one of those standards has a minimal accepted standard, and then it has a bunch of considerations. In those 10 critical areas, does Summit meet or exceed those minimal acceptable standards?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Chris, the document you're referring to is the reopening document checklist for reopening
Yes.
of schools for 2020, 2021.
Thank you.
That goes back to what President Miller was saying. You know, we certainly can't just come up with a plan and push it forward and say, this is what we're going to do. If it doesn't meet the criteria, then the county and the state push back to us and would not approve putting our plan in place.
That checklist is available on the Department of Ed website, and it is the checklist that the county superintendent uses to check our plan for completion. So it is there.
That is the plan. And after that approval is given, then and only then does the Board of Education communicate that information to you. We would never communicate information to our teachers, our students, our community, people we care about, if we had not been approved to do so.
One last question, Mr. Gardella. What other resources is the district using as a guide for making decisions?
We're using the Department of Education. We're working with our local health department quite often. We use the CDC. We look at the American Academy of Pediatrics, although we don't, hang our hat, necessarily on them, but they are a very useful resource. We consult with our neighbors and talk with others, really just to ensure that we all have the same understanding of the guidelines. Every district is tasked to come up with a plan that is right with their own community. But when we do weigh all of the different areas of compliance, we consult with one another. So we use all of the resources that are available to us and to ensure that our plans, again, thorough and complete.
Thank you.
And of course, I'm sorry, one more. Of course, we use the executive orders as they come out. I refreshed my screen several times, in the last 24 hours waiting for 175 to come out, and read it very carefully today. We are in compliance. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. I have a daughter in Summit Public Schools, and I intend to send her. So I've reviewed all of these, all of what the Summit is doing. I've reviewed the plan. I'm very familiar with what the work that needs to be done, probably right up until the second we start school and probably after that. And so as of this time, I intend to send my daughter, and I support the district and their work.
And please know also that we do appreciate a lot of the comments and the concerns that have been expressed by parents, members of the public, people with a lot of expertise and knowledge in this area. And some of those concerns have led to modifications in our existing plan. For instance, the MERV 13 filters first came from a parent out of the Franklin area, but yet we had to research and make sure that our equipment could, actually utilize the filters for the upgrade. And we found out through our engineering firm, EI Associates, that was a due. The other thing is, from the public meeting, I talked about fans that we added at the high school and middle school to increase the ventilation and address some of the concerns with heat. And one of the other parents was very astute and sent me a thing saying, hey, Mr. Pepe, check what the CDC guidelines with respect to fans, which I had already been on, but I appreciated that, followed up on it. And Principal Grimaldi and I actually put together the first fan in the high school. And I'm happy to report that not only is it an oscillating fan, but it has the ability to tilt back, so it does not directly blow on any student. And we tested it out, set the first desk in front of the fan with no breeze in our face. So we, the point is, we do appreciate the concerns, and we're trying to take all the steps possible to ensure our plan's the best it can be. Okay, so we're at 8:06, and I know I have members of the Board of School Estimate in the bullpen. So are we ready?
Yes, let's go back, but and everyone who is viewing can stay and watch that, and then we will come back and continue with public comment.
Okay, so I need a motion to, well, you can just, Madam President, you're saying we're going to take a recess, so I'll just reflect that here. And when we come back, we'll pick up where we left off.
Yes.
On public discussion.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, Doug Orr's behind the scenes. Doug, if you can bring up the mayor and members of the council and start moving board members down into the waiting area, except for Michael Colon and President Miller. And I'll see if I can help you.
David looks quite relaxed.
Thank you very much. I'm actually on vacation.
Excellent.
I'm afraid to move somebody down because it says remove. I don't want to kick them out of the meeting altogether. Okay, so who's left here? I don't need Mr. Bonner.
No,
Not this year.
he's waiting for it.
That's it. Gone.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
All right. So again, for the members of the public, I've already explained that we're continuing our live stream. We are now going into the Board of School Estimate public hearing, and in accordance with the New Jersey Community Affairs Local Operational Guidance, COVID-19 guidance for remote public meetings, I'm going to call the order of this. And again, if you could please stand for the flag salute since another meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend any meeting of public bodies at which their business is discussed or acted upon. Notices announcing the date, time, and place for this special meeting were sent to all concerned individuals, associations, and sent to the Union County local source in accordance with Chapter 231, PL 1975. At this time, I'll take the roll. Mayor Radist.
Here.
Councilmember Nadeau.
Here.
Councilmember Vartan.
Present.
Board of Education President Miller.
Here.
And Board of Education Member Cologne.
Here.
Okay, Madam Mayor, do you want to make any announcements at all?
I just want to make a very brief comment. We are here in a difficult time in our country, in our community. We're here for one specific reason at the Board of School Estimate meeting. And we are very fortunate that we're able to take the steps we're going to take tonight. Yes, it's unfortunate to lose state aid, but through prudence and strong support from our community members as taxpayers, we are able to do what we need to do without cutting into program. And I know we've been through a lot this whole year. I won't go through the litany, coming off especially the outage last week. But we are a blessed community because we work really hard together and we support each other. So that's really all I have to say.
Madam Mayor. Okay, so the reason why we're here, and I do appreciate you guys taking the time out for this special meeting. The state of New Jersey, as you're aware, we've been waiting to see what was going to happen with the final adjustments to state aid. At the end of July, I think it was the 28th or something like that, we finally got the finalized number. And for some, it represents a reduction of approximately $300,000. It's $296,968. While it, seems like a lot of money, it is, because every dollar, we certainly utilize within our budgeting. However, the good news is, even with the reduction, we're still ahead of where we were in the prior year on state aid. So if you remember, each year I've been talking about, going back to 2010-11 when we lost all of our state aid, and we've been slowly climbing back. And we just got excited because we finally got back to where we were in 2010-11, and then they took a little bit back. So what the mayor was opening with, and I really do appreciate the comment, we're in a great place because we do have a 2% fund balance. We talk about that all the time, and we're very reluctant to dip into that. This is why. The reason why you hold unassigned fund balance, it used to be as much as 6% years ago, and then the state started bringing it down through S1701 in the early 2000s. But at 2%, it's like the rainy day fund. It's for unforeseen situations like this, where you've already struck your budget, you're already beginning a school year. So without a lot of further discussion on it, I am going to touch on what was available to us as far as what the options are. And I know Councilman Nadeau and Councilman Vartan were very studious in asking what all the options are. And of course, the mayor and I have discussed this item as we go through, just like with operations. So she was a little bit ahead of where things are on this. So districts that experience reductions in state aid had the following options. They could either, one, use unassigned general fund balance to maintain the budget appropriations, which is what we are going to do. And that is what I had recommended to the operations committee and to the full board. Number two was to request commissioner approval to withdraw from emergency reserve. We no longer have emergency reserve. At one point, we had $400,000 in emergency reserve. We utilized that for all the security protocols we put in place throughout the district and the lockdown lens system. The third option was, pursuant to code, withdraw from maintenance reserve to cover budgeted required maintenance costs. This really doesn't have a lot of impact on our maintenance portion of the budget. And at this point, that just didn't seem like it made a lot of sense. And finally, reduce appropriations for the 2020-2021 year. We've just opened the year. So at this point, to start going through and cutting things is just does not make sense. So the reason why I've offered the selection of pulling from our fund balance unreserved is because I already know where we're heading to the end of the audit, because I always do a financial forecast. And I know we're closing out this year, and Kathy Sarno knows, because she does a lot of the legwork on that we're going to close out with excess surplus again. So that will put us in a very good opportunity to replace this money that we are pulling out. So it'll basically be covered on the spreadsheet, and it'll be addressed by January. So the money that you're going to approve tonight for us to withdraw, we'll be able to put back through the audit come January 1. Kathy, do you have anything to add on that?
Thank you.
Okay, so at this point, Madam Mayor, members of the Board of School Estimate, do you have any further questions?
I do not, Mr. Pepe, but I would like to ask either Councilmember Naidu or Vartan if they have any comments or questions.
Do you want to go first, Greg? Go ahead.
You can go, David.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. First of all, I just want to thank all the hard work that you guys have been doing on all the various topics, from reopening to this budget. It is an incredible amount of work that has been going on behind the scenes. I know the board, the administrators, the teachers, the staff, you guys have done a phenomenal job of giving us, I have, as all of you know, I have 2 boys in the public school system. I'm very proud of the fact of the amount of energy and specificity by which you have provided us, given the guidelines that you have to work with and a lot of the uncertainties that you have. So I want to, first of all, thank you overall for that. I think this budget idea that Mr. Pepe has proposed is completely reasonable. This is why we do have rainy day funds. We are in a rainy day situation. It would be unwise of us not to use a rainy day fund when it's raining outside. And finally, for those of you who know and remember our dear friend, Matt Gould, whose anniversary of his passing was actually today. And you will recall that he was on your board and as a member of the Board of School Estimate.
Mm-hmm.
And his proudest moment, I believe, as a member of council or anything, was in helping to get past universal full day kindergarten. And the fact that we can retain that, I think, is a wonderful thing. So I want to thank you for being able to do that. And that's all my comments for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, David. So first of all, I just want to sincerely thank the administration members whose jobs have been completely overhauled. And I want to especially thank the teachers and the members of the Board of Education who have continued to volunteer their time working on this reopening plan throughout the summer. Thank you also to Lou for your expert fiscal management in making sure that this is something that we're able to do. And for your transparency and very quick response to the questions that David and I had earlier this week. So I have a couple of additional questions, and I would like to make it clear that I do not want to be critical of any of the work that's done in any way. But clearly, from the comments that were made in the last meeting and that are going to continue to be made when the meeting goes back, there are concerns that I think are legitimate from members of the community and the teachers who are also, many of them are members of the community. Because I am a member of the Board of School Estimate, I want to make sure that I respect the experts who worked on this. I also want to make sure that I respect the decision-making process. So I'll limit my questions to the things that do or do not cost money. So the first question that I have is, there's no testing strategy in the plan. Was that decision based primarily on a lack of funding, or was it based on something else?
Go ahead, Rob, because that's really not in my bailiwick.
Yeah, do you want to take that, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I could do my best. The best person to call on would probably be Doreen. But what I would say is that we just don't have the ability to do that, every day. I don't know that there are enough tests available to us. I believe that is what we ran into, both availability and then the potential for funding at the time when we were tasked to do that. So I don't believe that
And
was
New Jersey doesn't
very quickly not an option for us to be able to do.
Plus, if you look at where would be the easiest place to locate it, Greg, it may be, and I may be wrong, I apologize. I may be on the frequently asked questions page of the DOE guidelines. New Jersey doesn't require us to test.
Sure, I'm definitely, again, I'm definitely not trying to say there should be testing in this plan. Why didn't you do it? I'm asking, was it a financial decision or not?
I distinctly remember the beginning of planning, and that was one of the first things that we talked about. And
Okay.
From my memory, it was availability of the tests.
So now
That
I'm
was the
gonna,
number one boundary. Go ahead,
now I'm
Lou.
going to go ahead and jump in, Rob, because I didn't even understand where you were going. I thought you were talking about academic testing. You're talking about COVID testing.
Yes,
So
yeah, I'm talking about
okay, I'm
testing
sorry.
for the virus, yeah.
So no, the answer is absolutely no. It had nothing to do with financial. I think going back to what was already responded, and not screening but testing, that was not something that we were required to do. That's not part of the plan. That's not a requirement that was put forward to us. So it wasn't even entertained as far as financial implication. What I can say is that there is nothing in the plan where cost became an issue of us putting in the adequate PPE. Okay, I think that that's one of the things, I've been saying from the get-go. All of our decision making came down to 3 C's, and one of them was not cost. It was capability, capacity, and care. So we certainly are in a good financial position. We did receive an additional $178,000 towards COVID-related purchasing. We also have the digital divide grant. I think Kathy Sarno and Jen McCann have been outstanding on ensuring we squeeze every bit of dollars out of that, as well as Doreen Babbis, who Rob was talking about earlier. So I don't want to keep going, but no, that's not an issue.
Okay, and so then the same question, I'm assuming it's the same answer for why there wouldn't be daily temperature checks, right? It wasn't that cost was an issue, it was that
No,
it's
it has
not in the requirements versus-
it has nothing to do with cost.
Okay, and David mentioned full day kindergarten, which could be the only thing that comes even close to this plan as far as controversy within the community. But I think why I was so supportive of full day kindergarten at the time was because it took a situation where there were students in Summit experiencing two different types of education within the same public school system. And I thought that that was very wrong. What this plan, I think, puts in place is essentially the same thing, which is enabled, of course, by the parent choice. Parents choose whether to go fully remote or not. But my question is then, are there any financial resources that are being dedicated to somehow enhancing in any way the educational experience for the people who are completely remote versus the people who are partially remote?
The answer to that in short is yes. I don't know, Rob, if you want to go into any detail. Again, most of that goes back to, and Kathy, you're the one handling a lot of the grant pieces. Do you want to add anything to that question?
So we have a grant called the CARES Act Digital Divide that the motive behind that is bridging the gap between those who do not have devices, hotspots, things that are technologically related across the district. So that funding supports those students. And then we have our regular CARES Act grant, which is a little bit more broad in scope, which takes care of things that are not just technologically related, PPE, nursing supplies, and so on and so forth. So we have our funding from the federal government that we're definitely maximizing to the best we can to help support across the district, all the students, to make it as equitable as possible.
One of the things that we did even before CARES money came in was purchase Chromebooks, and this was way back, when we first closed down. I remember Lou bringing this to ops, this idea that we were going to need them, and credit to Lou, that foresight was 100% correct. We have purchased Chromebooks so that we can outfit all of our youngest learners. We can be one-to-one all the way through K to 12 as long as they do get here on time. We are still awaiting delivery of those Chromebooks, and we don't have them in hand yet. And then, we're also going to be delivering professional development, as Peggy alluded to in an education report earlier, that we are going to be training teachers on the tech tools that they can use to deliver instruction effectively remotely. A big push of ours in the beginning of planning was preparation of our full remote plan in the event that at some point we have to go fully remote. for everyone, for getting in person entirely. We of course, speculate that that could be a possibility at some point. So that was actually our first step, was what happens if we have to go fully remote? Do we have the resources? Do we have the training? Are we able to do that? We also purchased Google Suite to make sure that everybody has the apps for education that we can use. We have several staff members who are trained as Google educators, and we're well prepared to start to deliver a high quality learning product. It will take us a little bit of time, to get everybody up to speed on this. We have increased our expectations of our full remote plan from the spring. We have not put it into practice just yet. So there will be a bit of a curve, but we definitely have the tools. We've definitely spent the money wisely, and we're ready to go.
Can I just jump in on this issue, just so people aren't misunderstanding? And I know, because I know Greg is supportive of full day kindergarten, but I wouldn't want anyone to assume there's some kind of equivalency in any argument. I don't think he intended it. And so I want to make sure that nobody hears it who's listening as an equivalency. The difference was, and I think Greg alluded to this, but I want to make it explicit, which is essentially when we had a distinction with universal full day kindergarten or having it paid, that was the reason. Some people may have been forced into a choice that they did not want to do because of monetary situation. That is completely different from this situation where parents are being given the option of choosing what is best for their family in consideration. And I applaud you guys for trying to do your very best to make all the resources available. But it is a parental choice here that's available, not because the district has decided that certain people should be able to afford something and some people cannot.
What I would add from a more governance and oversight level, Greg, to that is one of the first things that we said as a board to the administrators who we charged with creating the plan and coming up with the best that they could give to us was, safety, good education, equity, to the best of our ability. And one of the things that we've also said amongst ourselves, I've discussed it with Mr. Colon as the operations chair, I've discussed it with Mr. Bonner as my vice president, and they're both on ops, and I assume that they have brought it to Mr. Pepe, is if our budget this year, our budget is our budget, but if those line items look exactly the same based on everything that's going on, maybe we're not looking in all the right places. Maybe we're not thinking hard enough. So, we've authorized the operations committee, we've authorized Lou to do what we need to do with the money that we have within the same budgetary, dollars, shift to the best of our ability in order to make the education and the safety as robust as possible, no matter where you're sitting. Whether you're sitting in a classroom, whether you're sitting at home, or both. I hope that helped.
Donna,
It does. It completely answers the question I was.
Just to add to that a little bit, because I think it was an important question with respect to investment in all of our students and the learning experience. And so with President Miller on the education committee prior to the reorg, we discussed enhancing the remote learning experience, anticipating that there would be some form of remote learning in 2021. And that included increasing the synchronous learning that would take place with students. And so there has been a substantial effort. Fortunately, most of the technology investment had already been made to enhance the synchronous learning. But that is now taking place at a higher level in 2021 than what we had in the spring with the live streaming of all of the teachers in the classroom for the remote learners. And so there has been a concerted effort by the administration, supported by the board, to make strategic investments to enhance the learning experience for all of the students, including the full remote learners.
That's excellent. Thank you very much. I have one last question, I promise. I think for first responders and for hospital workers and other essential workers, there is a reasonable expectation every day of enhanced personal risk. Teachers, while heroic, I don't think sign up for that same personal risk. Based on the meeting before this, it seemed like there were very many teachers who were expressing clearly that they did not feel safe. Is there any concern from the board that there would be a teacher strike or mass resignations? Is that anticipated in any way?
I haven't gotten any indication that that would happen. We continue to work with our partners in order to make them feel as safe as possible. I have not asked, because I don't think it's possible, for our administrators to create a risk-free environment. It's not possible. And I appreciate that going into an environment with any sense of risk is one that takes tremendous bravery, and it takes tremendous thought in order to do that. And as we said in the last session, our plans are not over yet. Our planning to the detailed level that everyone, parents and teachers, want is not yet completed. We have some time to do it, and we'll do it. And if we do not have the safety precautions that are the standards by which we are hanging our hats upon, the plan will change. We hear the teachers that they don't all feel terrific. I'm also hearing from teachers that feel absolutely fine. So, we're trying to balance all of those things, but I have not heard anything of that nature. And I would hope that it wouldn't come to that, because we haven't, there are labor management tools that we have that would need to occur, I would think, before someone would strike. So we have, a negotiations committee that could be called upon, et cetera. So I don't fear that, and I certainly hope I'm correct.
Yeah, I would hope that the SEA and the teachers will acknowledge the enormous effort that's been taking place to create a safe environment for them and the students. I will tell you that as the chair of the ops committee, Lou Pepe and I have been in discussions ad nauseum this summer to ensure that every effort is being taken to create a safe environment in every building for our students and for the teachers. And so we don't take that responsibility lightly. And we appreciate that there is concern with respect to the environment, but there has been a phenomenal level of commitment that has been put to this task of ensuring that we have as safe, and President Miller was clear, it's impossible to create a riskless environment, but we are seeking to create as safe an environment as we possibly can in every building, in every classroom, for every teacher and student.
And Greg, to your point, we've even gone as far as acquiring N95 masks for our nursing personnel, okay, who are like first responders in that case, because they're dealing with our students. When we talked about the fans and you're asking about costs associated with what we're doing, we made that decision and within 2 days purchased over 100 fans. So that purchase alone was about $5,000. So we're very quick to respond to what makes sense and what we can do to have an even better plan. Okay. Yeah. So I think it was a good question, but I just want to make sure that you understand that that's not a concern on our end.
Yeah, the operations committee has approved every budget item that has been put to it for safety purposes to increase and enhance the safety of the school. So every item that has come to the committee has been approved. And so there is no, there's no penny wise, pound foolish activity taking place with respect to safety measures of the district.
Well, thank you.
Can I just add one thing to Greg's, I think, an important point, or 2 points to it. One is obviously from your responsibility, you're responsible for when kids are in school. But of course, kids leave school and they go home. And I think as a general matter, we as a community, and I think mayor, council, so forth, have a responsibility and will use that responsibility of telling parents and the rest of the community that, listen, hey, in order for us to be successful in our schools, we need to make sure that people follow the appropriate guidance here and not do the wrong things. Because it's not simply that you guys do everything right in school and then once people leave the school, they get to do whatever the heck they want. That would defeat the entire purpose of going through this exercise. And so I think it's incumbent upon all of us as parents who have kids in school to make sure our kids follow the rules after school and keep that social distancing, keep that mask, do those things that are necessary, and that we as adults model appropriate behavior for them. It's a community-wide effort. Greg referred to teachers as whether or not essential. I'll remind folks that I'm sure that people in grocery stores never thought of themselves as being essential. Truck drivers never thought of themselves as being essential. But if they decided that they didn't want to go and drive food to grocery stores back in March and April, we wouldn't have any shelves stocked. That would be a problem for all of us. When people signed up to be grocery store clerks, they didn't think that their job was as important, if not more important, than a lot of people who make large sums of money. Certainly more important for all of us. And we should keep that in mind, that we're all in this together, and we can only succeed if we all do our part to make this successful. It's not a singular effort, and it shouldn't be on the burden of one group of people to enforce or make sure. We're all in this together.
May I just add that I think it's pretty remarkable that you had 150 teachers and staff members from the administration working for months all summer long on this plan. Yes, I know there are some teachers from the prior meeting who are concerned and worried, but clearly there are very many that are ready to go back and be with the children and teach them in person. It's not news to anybody that you don't go into the teaching profession to make a fortune. You go because it's a passion. You want to be with children. You want to teach them. You want them to learn. And I have the utmost respect for all of these teachers. And you know, everybody has to make choices, right? And I applaud the plan. You give parents a choice. It's clear. You worked very hard. You are the professionals. And it passed with flying colors. It was strongly approved by the Department of Health and the county superintendent, which is the Department of Education. So these are all good questions, Greg, and I'm glad to know that money was not a factor in how we move forward. I didn't think it was, but I'm glad you asked the questions, and then now everyone else knows that. And David, you're right. People have to behave properly outside of school. Today, I actually stopped two kids walking along the street and said, "Put your mask on," because clearly they were not related. So yeah, I don't want to be a bad guy, but the reality is we all have to be responsible, and we're a community. We've worked hard. We've supported everybody in this community. We've been supporting each other since this whole thing started, whether it's your merchants or your elderly or your next door neighbor. And it has to continue this way. So I can't thank you enough for all the enormous amount of work you've put into this. And all of you board members that I've appointed, thank you.
Okay, so Madam Mayor, at this point, we move to the public discussion. I don't have any public discussion. I did not get any comments related to this activity. So it's up to you, but we can certainly entertain the motion at this time.
Yes, may I have a motion to approve taking the money that we're not getting from state aid out of the fund balance?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I had Councilman Nadeau moving it and Councilman Vartan seconding it. On the roll. Councilman Nadeau.
Yes.
Councilman Vartan.
Yes.
Okay, Board President Miller.
Yes.
Operations Committee Chair from the board, Michael Colon.
Yes.
And Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You know, you guys are very, very supportive. Appreciate adding another special meeting, but the state required we have this done by the 14th. So thank you for amending your schedules.
Thank you
Madam
so
Mayor,
much.
if
Our
that's it,
pleasure.
I
Thank
just
you.
Hey,
motion to adjourn this meeting.
so moved.
So, oops.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so at this time, I'm going to have the man behind the scenes, Doug Orr, take members of the council out and leave my board members in and Kathy and Rob, and we'll start bringing back the rest of the board members.
Doug Orr is like Oz.
Yeah, so, and give me a second, I'll be right with you.
Lou will be right back with us.
Okay, so at this point, do we have everybody back? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so the board is back. Madam President, you ready to resume?
Absolutely, we're listening.
Okay. So we left off, I will pick back up with Anna Carisi. And the question or the comment was, and let's see, I would like to ask, in the case that a student who attends school in person, he doesn't feel safe and would like to change to fully remote, does he have to wait for the 1 week transition to change from the in-person to full remote? Could the student stay at home and attend the classes remotely during the 1 week of transition that is mentioned in the opening plan? And Madam President, I'll just answer this real quick because I know we've been talking ad nauseum with this too. Based on the concerns, I know Acting Superintendent Gardella feels the same, that we don't want to leave somebody in a situation where they're not comfortable as a student. So we will make the accommodations we need to. It's just a matter of how we're going to, do the registration piece. But I'm almost confident. Rob, am I correct with that?
Yeah, you're right on. There's no 1 week delay to join a remote class. It's simply the 1 week is simply needed by the principal and the teacher in order to make sure that everything is transitioned fully over to the remote instruction program. The student can join the remote setting, as quickly as we can put him or her in a class as a participant. But that 1 week would be needed just to, fully complete the registration program, attendance protocols, all those kinds of things. So that's how that would go.
So great question. And we're going to, try and accommodate that kind of concern as quickly as possible. The next one is Rachel Frank, 30 Rotary Drive. Dear Mr. Gardella, members of the Board of Ed and District, first of all, we want to thank you for your endless work and commitment to our community. We are nothing but grateful for your tireless efforts and have the utmost respect for you. our Summit School principals, and of course, our beloved teachers and staff members. Today's update in the New Jersey Board of Health states the risk of COVID-19 transmission is lower when there are small in-person classes, activities, and events. Students remain at least 6 feet apart. It continues to state that the risk of COVID transmission is higher when they are full-sized in-person classes, activities, and events. And schools and districts must allow for social distancing within the classroom to the maximum extent practicable. This can be achieved by ensuring students are seated at least 6 feet apart. With in-person enrollment, how it stands now, will the 6-foot distance between desks be possible in all classrooms? And will you switch to a split session schedule if 6-foot distancing cannot be maintained? And actually, I think we kind of covered the 6-foot issue during the break. So I don't think there's anything that really needs to be added to this.
I think this also illustrates the rapid rate of change, of things. We received an executive order this afternoon. We received Department of Health guidance even later than that. Things we received enrollment yesterday. So, things are changing day by day, and we are continuing forward. I have actually checked on the Department of Health with our local Department of Health on the DOH guidance regarding distancing. We are still in compliance.
Okay, the next comment is from Isabel Ribeiro. I have 2 girls in Summit Public Schools, Franklin in the middle school. After the forum meeting on Monday, I became more concerned about sending my kids to in-person school. Here are my main concerns. I think desks are too close together in the classrooms without acrylic separations and not respecting social distancing. I don't understand why the school doesn't split classes in half and have students go every other day so it can keep students at 6 feet apart. The lack of air conditioning in the middle school is trying to be solved by having fans in the classrooms. Fans are against the CDC rules and they can spread germs even more. This shouldn't be the solution to the lack of air conditioning. I was shocked to learn that the school isn't requiring that all siblings/family members of the same house quarantine in case of one of the members gets potentially exposed to COVID. To me, this is unacceptable. A family living under the same household should be all quarantined in case of exposure of one of the family members. Testing after quarantine should be required, and the test should not be that a student is simply 48-hour fever-free. We all know the majority of people that test positive are asymptomatic or don't have a fever, even though they can spread the virus. So how can you guarantee without a test that somehow that someone that was exposed actually doesn't have the virus? I hope my concerns get addressed in tonight's meeting. Again, I'm going to quick answer the fan thing because I want to make sure we don't have disinformation out there. The fans were not purchased to make up for a lack of air conditioning in the middle school. Air conditioning is not required. We're very fortunate that we were able to utilize state funding, grant money years ago on some of the projects to put air conditioning in the majority of classrooms. At the middle school, the reason why we're putting the fans in is because, again, this is not a typical school year. We understand that there's added stress of wearing the mask, so to increase circulation, that's why we're putting the fans in. And we are complying with the CDC rules on how to use them. Any comments on any of the rest, or do you want me to continue? Okay. Jennifer Gusto. I'm wondering why the first day of school is not pushed back for at least a week. Teachers would have more time to prepare and integrate their in-person and virtual lessons. Most schools do not start until after Labor Day. And if many people go to the beach for the holiday weekend, that may expose them to more people. I don't see the point of rushing, especially this year. Thank you, Jennifer Gusto. Okay, the next one is from Katrina Matta at 23 Templar Way, parent of a 10th grader and a 6th grader. Questions. Number one, how will the online instruction be delivered and by whom? Preferably mostly synchronous. Number two, what are you doing to guarantee equity in education of online students versus in-person students? Number three, I'm a college professor and had to go through training to be qualified to teach online. Were the teachers required the same? And then an additional comment, my 10th grader is high risk, cannot be sent to school, and nor may her sibling for risk of being infection or bringing infection home. They are legally entitled to the same quality of education as other kids, even if most will be in person. Not an afterthought list of assignments by a teacher doing double duty. I could not participate in earlier discussion for lack of internet, so I asked to be seriously considered now. Okay, the next comment is from Gina Del Jones, 32 Mountain Ave. I'm concerned by the lack of transparency taking place. I understand this is a huge undertaking and many of the board members are going above and beyond in order to be prepared. We need to equally address the needs of parents, students, and teachers in order to meet the needs of all those impacted. Those three components will be essential to success. Our teachers are indispensable and not in any way disposable. I am very concerned about the lack of information regarding protecting our teachers. Is the district supplying them with adequate PPE or reimbursing them for supplying their own? If a teacher is exposed and needs a mandatory quarantine, how will that teacher be adequately paid for that time without depleting their personal paid time off or sick pay? Will extra sick pay be extended to teachers who become ill? I'm confident we have teachers who are high risk, and how are their needs being addressed? Summit has always had incredible pride in our school system and teachers. It has taken a long time and a lot of resources to build up such a wonderful teaching team. It is up to us to protect the teachers we cherish so much. I want to hear about the board's actions to address each of these needs. Okay, the next comment is from Mark Weinberg, 75E New England Avenue. Like all parents, we are torn. Nothing is more important than the health of our children, but so too is the health of their teachers and school staff. While it is impossible to eliminate all risks, we must do everything we can to minimize risks. It seems that our summit plans for in-person instruction, while a great start, are not quite there yet. There are simply too many open questions, and we'll do our best to create the confidence students, parents, and staff need. Don't be cowboys. If we're not ready, so be it. There is nothing wrong with extreme caution when faced with a deadly pandemic. We don't want to look back and wish we had acted differently. Sometimes the cost of a mistake is worse than the cost of a delay. Okay, the next comment is from Jennifer Lustenberger. Hello, and thank you all for your hard work and the work that your colleagues are doing. Number one, can we look at a voluntary testing of groups of students through pool or batch testing? That way we can monitor the cases of COVID, which will undoubtedly show up at schools before they cause an outbreak. Number two, the spacing of desks that were shown at Franklin doesn't seem adequate. Can the classrooms be reworked or outside spaces used to allow better spacing? Number three, how is the air in each classroom being exchanged? Exhaust fans? Question. Number four, has the athletic department looked into the risk of myocarditis in athletes under their supervision? Seems all athletes who have evidence of COVID infection would benefit from being screened by myocarditis before vigorous activity, EKG, etc. Next comment comes from Susan Pilon, 105 New England Avenue. Dear board members, will you please consider posting the first day of school until after Labor Day? I'm sure the teachers and faculty can use the extra time to prep for all of the new state guidelines. It will also give families more time to adjust to the quarantine timeline if they had to travel out of state for any reason, which will make it safer for the entire community. Thank you for all that you do, Susan. Continuing. Okay. Next one is from Wendy Donat, SEA co-president and teacher at Summit High School. To the Summit Board of Education. I hope to start my 28th year at Summit High School in 2 weeks. I miss seeing my students and interacting with my colleagues. However, I have serious concerns about how safe it is for any of us to enter the building. While some classrooms may have desks spaced several feet apart, we are all still waiting to hear how bathrooms and offices that have no windows and no discernible airflow will be made safe. We may technically be in compliance, but no one who has previously used these rooms will feel safe without serious remediation. The fact that the board is meeting online tonight only increases my anxiety. There are so many details that will still need to be resolved. We need more time to make sure that we have thought through all of our procedures and that we have the necessary PPE to keep everyone safe. Please consider starting the school year with online instruction and give us the time to fully prepare the buildings to keep our students safe. Okay, that's what I had, Madam President, up until the time of the meeting. I'm going to check my email right now to see if I have any more coming in.
Okay.
Okay, and bear with me. I'm trying to manage 2 screens here. This is from Richard Kelleher. Hi, some questions about school reopening. Number 1, what is the protocol for the class if the teacher or student tests positive for COVID? Number 2, if it is determined that Franklin has to close the school for an outbreak, will the children attending school take part in the same online program as the children who are not in school, or will there be different programs? Number 3, what is the protocol if there is an outbreak at the high school or the junior high school, for example? Will all Summit schools close or case by case? If I keep my child home because he is sick, but not sure it's COVID, is a negative test required to go back to school? Thanks, Richard Kelleher, 768 Springfield Ave. Okay, then we have Alexandra Kelly. She's just adding to the comment that I already read, staff member. Laura Gibson, same thing, joining her.
Or I'm sorry, Lou, could you be more specific? So
Oh,
what
I'm
you're
sorry.
saying is these are educators who are, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Members of the SEA, the members of the SEA that had distributed the same statement. Okay, this is from AJ Sharoff. I see mention of using fans on warm days in rooms where AC is not available, but doesn't that just circulate and spread any germs more easily throughout the air in the room and therefore defeat the purpose of physical separation, plexiglass, etc.? Thank you for everything you're doing and help making the school safe for our kids. I have an email from Peggy Wong. I think she's telling me she's having an issue with her Zoom link. David Howarth. David writes, Oh, I'm sorry. David is also one of our SEA members who's adding to the statement that was read earlier. Okay, Barbara Faringa, Barbara Faringa at 1 Little Wolf Road. Barbara writes, given that the desks of children are not 6 feet apart, why don't we have at least physical barriers? The biggest driver of COVID risk is the number of contacts. We are putting our children at risk by keeping class size as is. Keeping the children only 3 feet apart exacerbates that risk. Why not at least provide physical barriers? Okay, and then I have Miss Hannah Gallagher, middle school, also adding to the statements put forward by the SEA. Okay, and then lastly, I have Akifa and Sri Alangad from 75 Templar Way, parents of Ria and Sanya, and they say hello. We would like to thank you for all the efforts the Board of Ed is taking in in school reopening plans. We have signed up for in-person classes for our daughters in the 11th and 8th grade, but have several concerns. Since the classes are rotating in the middle and high school, the fact that there would be no disinfecting possible between different students using the same desks is extremely concerning. Further, the desks are not 6 feet apart in all cases. Also, the same situation exists for science labs. From what we've understood, majority of the school district has opted for in-person classes. How would entry and exit be controlled? Also, there would be no temperature checks or health monitoring at the entrances. We are all putting our kids at risk. Why is our school opening a week earlier while all the other school districts considered a delayed opening? Having all cases at school, having all classes at school on all days is extremely concerning as well. Why can't the kids not be broken up into groups? Our personal opinion is to delay in-person school opening. We would also like to have guidelines on how remote school would be conducted. How would the teachers keep the kids accountable? Please give us some clarity in the above matters sincerely, and thank you. And that is it, Madam President.
Thank you, Lou. So there's a number of people have asked very, very specific questions, and public comment is not conducive to asking individual questions. It's for commentary. I need to. I'll work with Mr. Gardella and the staff to ensure that, you know, to the best we can, individual questions are answered. But individual questions, that this isn't the forum for that. So I will work to determine how to get certain questions answered. With that, does anybody else have any comments?
Yeah, I'll just acknowledge everybody who I talk to, you know, on this panel acknowledges it's a scary time. It's a scary time for everyone, you know, in every field. The fact remains, you know, educators are being called on by the state of New Jersey to open in some capacity at some point. And, you know, our charge is to do the very best we could to design these models. We set goals that were right for our community, and we've worked very hard to achieve them. And I think we've communicated very transparently. I think that we have been listening, we've been monitoring, we've been looking to guidance daily. And, you know, we've we've certainly highlighted our openness to continue in dialogue and to consider whether or not a change is needed. Those things have remained the same. So I'll say thank you.
I'll
Anyone else?
clarify some general points that it's not answering this question specifically, but with regards to the testing piece, it's a tricky one because there's no laws on the books similar to like you have to get like a certain set of shots to come to school.
Mhm.
And it's real tough. So like right now, I know of no circumstance where a school could mandate testing to return to school. And so the general guidelines in most of the documentation that you read is that if there is a positive case, then the school will work with the local health department with regards to the quarantine and then essentially getting a clear bill of health to return to the school. And generally that's a 14-day quarantine from the onset of symptoms. So that's not an easy one, but schools have very little leeway there with regards to forcing. But there is a lot of guidance out there that says that schools should work with the local board of health. And so that's that one.
Chris?
Yeah.
Actually, if you are a positive case, it's a 10-day period and 24 hours fever-free. If you are a potentially a contact, it's a 14-day quarantine.
Thanks for the clarification.
We're all learning a lot.
Yeah. And then with regards to testing, while we were in BOSE, I got a chance to read over the DOH 19 pager. I skimmed. And some other questions that have come up. One, with regards to testing, is that the DOH says the CDC does not recommend universal testing of all asymptomatic students, and the NJDOH concurs with that recommendation. However, I did speak earlier about the CDC not recommending screening for symptoms, but the NJDOH disagrees with that and recommends that schools have a policy for daily symptom screening. So it just illustrates how things can change in about 20 minutes with regards to like the opinions of the governing bodies and the health bodies in the state and locally and nationally. So there's just a couple
Chris,
things
may
that
I
I've heard a
interrupt?
lot that I just want to clear up and point out. So I think we all have some light reading to do with regards to what came out today from the DOH.
And Chris, we do, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, we do have a policy for screening daily. I think what I'm hearing in parental concern is our policy says that families will do the screening. Our policy is that families screen and not send a child. And I'm hearing from parents that that is the aspect that is deemed unsatisfactory, that it's not the school doing the screening, that it's the family doing the screening.
School would be responsible for the visual screening, and the families would be attesting that they are conducting certain screenings at home daily.
Right. Like my daughter who's going to college, she needs to every day take her own temperature, et cetera. So I just wanted to clarify that we do have a policy. I'm hearing from some that they don't care for the policy.
Which was compliant.
Which is
again,
compliant.
And then if you look at what the Department of Health released as of August 13th, obviously we will digest 19 pages. I got that document at about 4 o'clock today. Truthfully, I have not had a full opportunity to go through that document and fully digest it all and apply it to where we are. I think Chris's point is, I can't underscore it enough. This is a perfect illustration of what it is, to try to navigate these types of plans when you have this guidance changing almost daily. We've seen just this week swirling rumors about a governor's announcement, an actual governor's announcement, an executive order that was slightly different, and the Department of Health breaking their silence and putting out some guidance. and it's Thursday, so here we go. This is our journey.
And some of the concerns are thematic that we've heard tonight, and some of them, a lot of them related to the 6-foot spacing. And I think, as Rob pointed out, as we actually have the numbers coming in, if we have less students in the room, we are going to create more space. We started spacing based on the maximum of if we had all students in. The other thing that I think is really important is that we have acquired a lot of the PPE materials that a lot of districts, couldn't get, that may be a reason why they're not opening. But we're well ahead. And when we talk about physical barriers, if you watch the video, we've also ordered 1,000 acrylic devices, actually 2,000. 1,000 of them were geared towards student work areas where it's needed. So like I appreciated the concern and question about a science lab. If we have students at a workstation, we will have the ability to segregate them with the use of the acrylic barrier. The other ones were actually our concern of staff in the small office areas they were talking about, like guidance counselors. But we also have no issue with the exhaust and ventilation. And there is no room in any of the schools that does not have an air exchanger, one way or the other. So that's just absolutely wrong if somebody's putting that out there. But again, we do care about all the comments that were made.
Yes, thank you very much. So shall that end public comment? Okay, again, thank you very much. We hear your comments. We care about them. Anyone who tries to tell you that we don't is just not talking to us enough, because we absolutely care. With that, we will move on to the remainder of our agenda. We're on
School board operations.
ops. Yep, we're on ops. But before we vote on ops, now we've already approved ops is A through I believe, Mr. Pepe?
We only took action on item E.
And we took action on E. So,
So you need.
but it is I, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, A through I.
A through I, excluding E, which we already acted upon.
May I interject for a moment?
Please.
Regarding item A, which is the revised calendar, attached, the 4 days that were proposed to the Ed Committee are not reflected on revised calendar. They are a proposal that very well may take place. It is something that we do intend to announce to the community, but that's not what was being voted on tonight. Tonight is purely the memorandum to move the first day to September 1. So the 4 days is a proposal. The 4 days was certainly supported by the Ed Committee and supported by the board, but that does not need to be part of the approval of tonight. And that wasn't part of the agenda item.
Okay, so that agenda item is simply for our September 1 start. The other, which was already discussed, may come at a later date.
Yes, the changing of those days don't affect the school calendar. Therefore,
Gotcha.
they don't require board approval.
Require board approval. Gotcha.
Right.
Thank you.
And item I is on the addendum, and we made sure that we posted the addendum. Typically, we don't get the opportunity to post an addendum, so that's why I'll bring it up, at a meeting and go through it. But given the importance of the item that was on there, Madam President, we made sure that it was out there so that we could get that public comment on that item.
Okay, good. That's right. So again, item I is the plan. And I reiterate, when we adopt this plan, we do not say this plan's done perfect, exactly like this. We say, we acknowledge this plan. We acknowledge as a board that the plan has been, as of today, okayed by the 2 regulatory bodies. That's all we say. And then we continue to get our guidance and continue to flex. That's all that adoption means. With that, do I have a motion on A through I?
Could I ask a question back to the calendar?
I apologize.
So sorry.
Vanessa.
No, because in general, our calendar does reflect half days where there's professional development, which is what is being which was what was discussed with the education committee, you know, the 4-hour morning with the afternoons as structured professional development to really help make sure that the remote learners were really it was comprehensive and inclusive, and teachers managing all these, you know, the pieces. And then of course, should we have to do all remote for any reason, obviously that would be so useful and helpful. At what point can families know for plan? I mean, because that's sort of an important planning note for families.
Oh, you're on mute, Rob.
Thank you. That is a decision that we have made to move the first 4 days, September 1 through 4th, to 4-hour sessions for students, which would not affect the afternoon whereabouts, you know, of the students, as they would be going home for remote had they been full sessions for them anyway. However, we would not be conducting the remote instruction for the purpose of training our staff a bit more, as we do have several professional development topics that we want to deliver to them effectively, such as additional social emotional support, tech tools to really make our remote product stellar, so that, you know, when we get to the full days, beginning September 8th, full days of instruction in which our afternoon remote product would begin, we worked out some of those areas where we haven't had, you know, as much time to practice with some of those newer tools. And it also does prepare us in the event that we do need to go full remote at some point. Difference being, you know, that they're not a change in contract or length of calendar. Therefore, I just wanted to just make that distinction that they're not necessary to be voted on for approval.
Understood, but we will be noticing the community, and when this calendar gets posted, it will have the indications of those days.
Yes.
Okay,
But
I just wanted to make sure. So just I understood the distinctions, and thank you. And yes, I think it sounds like an incredibly excellent use of that time for many different purposes, which are also incredibly needed in light of the pandemic.
Thank you, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
And just to be clear, Rob, the SEA has agreed with that
Yes.
that offer.
Yes, the SEA has agreed with that proposal. Yes.
All right, thanks for keeping us honest, people. Anything else? I'm calling it. Ops, A through I, exclusive of E. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, I think I had Peggy Wong on that, right? And Michael Cologne is the second. Okay, on the roll. Let's see, where am I? Mr. Bonner.
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Wong,
Yes.
Mr. Cologne,
Yes.
okay, Mr. Cho.
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Ms. Primack,
Yes.
Mr. Weinrich,
Yes.
and President Miller.
Yes,
Okay, motion's carry.
terrific. We've got one more item, item 9, I believe it is, personnel, just one item, A.
No, we have item A, and I'm going to read you item B, addition. Actually, Rob, do you want to go through this? Because you're the one who put it on, and I think you're pretty excited about what you're going to announce. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy to announce that our Summit High School has recommended a candidate to become our next assistant principal.
Rob, you know what? You're making an exciting announcement, and
Sorry,
something's shuffling. So
I'm shuffling. Oh, I'm sorry.
Start again.
Okay. I'm very excited to announce that Summit High School has recommended a candidate to become our next assistant principal. Mr. Brian Murtaugh is going to be joining us. He was a successful candidate through the interview process that Principal Grimaldi and her team led. I had an opportunity to be a part of the final round of interviews with the finalists. They had a rich pool, of candidates and some very strong people. Mr. Murtaugh is definitely a fine choice, and I'm excited for everyone to meet him officially. He is very personable. He's very articulate, very approachable, quickly ability to process questions and deliver really thoughtful and inclusive answers. So we're excited to welcome him aboard, and he is the agenda item who is on our addendum for approval.
Thank you for that. That's wonderful. And Rob, I can't help but notice when you talk about doing, HR work, you light up. Duly noted.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so now A through B. We can't wait to meet B. I need a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay.
Guys are getting slow.
I have,
I don't know.
Brian just got very nervous.
Long summer, Donna.
so I have Mr. Weinrich got the buzzer first, and then Peggy Wong with your quick internet got in second. So you are on as the second, ma'am. All right, so on the roll, I'll start with Mr. Weinrich.
Yes.
Dr. Wong.
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Primack.
Yes.
Mr. Cologne.
Yes.
Mr. Cho.
Yes.
And let's see, Mr. Bonner.
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes.
Okay, congratulations to Brian Murtaugh.
Yes, congratulations. And we look forward to welcoming him.
Welcome.
All right, well, gee, that's all we've got. However, before we close, we do not need a closed session. This was a very, very helpful meeting because it advanced our ability to open in some way in the coming weeks. It was an important meeting because we got to hear a lot of good information from our public. And as I said, we'll continue to, I realize that some people asked very specific questions, and I'll discuss with the administration how it might be possible to get answers. Finally, we've been remote. This is a special meeting. We're all in a bunch of different places. We normally don't meet in August, and so we remain remote. However, it is our intent to be back live in September. We hope to be able to do that. I currently see no reason why we cannot, but as you know, things change day by day. However, we hope to see you in September. Until that time, keep looking at the website, keep up to date on what's going on the website, and we'll be in touch. Meeting adjourned.
That was my note, Madam President. Check the website.
Check the website.
Check the website.
Check the website.
That's
the definitive source of information, not my Aunt Sylvia. We are adjourned.
So I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, everyone at home. That concludes our live stream tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.